Today on FYC, John and the panel will discuss the casting for the new Hunger Games Catching Fire, who will direct the next Justice League, and we'll take questions from the mailbag, the chat roll, and much more. So hang tight, For Your Consideration is coming up right now.
This is AMC For Your Consideration, movie talk for movie fans. This is episode number 9, originally recorded on Monday, August the 27th, 2012. Casting for Catching Fire. This episode was originally recorded at the beautiful AMC Burbank 16 in Burbank, California. Thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy the show. Greetings and citation, everybody. Welcome to this new installment of For Your Consideration. As always, I am your host. My name is John Campea. I'm the senior editor of AMC Movie News. You can follow me on Twitter if you'd like, at John Campea. It's always a popular thing to do. Joining me this week, first of all, sitting to my right from... Help me again with the name of your show, Amirose.
Fan Academy.
The show is Fan Academy, which you can watch over at IGN.
IGN.
She is a regular here on For Your Consideration, Miss Amirose Eisenbach. Amy, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
And people can follow you at
Rhythmic Rose.
At Rhythmic Rose on Twitter. Sitting beside Amy, she is the associate editor here at AMC Movie News, Miss Jennings Roth Cornett. Roth, thanks for being here.
Hello, thank you.
So listen, folks, we've got a whole bunch of things to talk about here. And one of the things we're going to focus on today is going to be the casting of the Hunger Games. But before we do anything else, we want to catch you up, as we do every week now, on all the happenings going on in the movie news world. This is our movie news flash. Starting off, The Expendables 2 finished #1 at the box office for a second week in a row. Coming in a close second is The Bourne Legacy, followed by Paranorman, The Campaign, and rounding out the top 5 is The Dark Knight Rises, which to date has made $422 million domestically alone. Notably, none of the films that opened this week finished in the top 5. The top film that opened this week out of Premium Rush and Hit and Run was Premium Rush, which came in 7th place, making $6.3 million.
Up next, Sony Pictures, Atlas Entertainment, and Arad Productions have tapped national treasure scribes Marianne and Cormac Wibberley to pen the adaptation of the video game Uncharted: Drake's Fortune. Neil Berger, who you guys might know, he directed Limitless, he directed The Illusionist, was previously attached to direct, but he's now tied up with Divergent over at Summit, so they're still looking for a director. Who would you like it to be?
Expendables 2 may have come in at #1 at the box office again, but that doesn't mean Chuck Norris is going to come back for Expendables 3. At a recent interview on the red carpet, Chuck Norris confirmed that he will indeed not be returning for Expendables 3. He said he just wanted to get together with these guys he's known for so many years and do at least one movie, but that's it for him. Now, the producer of Expendables has said he's already talked with the likes of Clint Eastwood, Harrison Ford, and Nicolas Cage, and plans on talking to Wesley Snipes as soon as he gets out of prison.
That's my favorite part of that story. So this is maybe, to me, the biggest news this week. Ben Affleck is not directing the Justice League. It was rumored, of course, that he was in talks, or being courted at least, by Warner Brothers to direct Justice League. He has come out and said, no, that's not true. It's just a rumor. It sounds cool, but I'm not involved. I don't believe you, Ben. However, there is a new follow-up rumor that the WB is looking to the Wachowski siblings to helm the film, which is not surprising since they are the 2 of the 3 directors behind Cloud Atlas, which Warner Brothers is reportedly happy with, and is also a huge, epic endeavor with multiple characters. So Justice League, not that surprising.
Breaking news from Star Wars Celebration 4, or Celebration 6. I was at #4, actually. Just as The Phantom Menace was re-released in theaters under 3D, of course we knew that the following 2 films, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, are also going to be re-released in 3D, but they're actually going to be released back-to-back. Attack of the Clones is going to be released on September 20th, 2013, followed immediately by October 11th, 2013, and maybe if my dreams come true, the following month, new versions of the film where Jar Jar Binks has been edited out.
Jason Momoa, who everyone will know, of course, from Conan the Barbarian, the reboot. Thank you. But many other people will know him as Khal Drogo from Game of Thrones, television's Game of Thrones. He is in talks to play the villain in Wolves, which is the directorial debut of screenwriter David Hayter, X-Men fame. I am happy to see him acting again.
Me too.
Hugh Laurie has been rumored for some time to play the big villainous CEO of Omnicorp in the highly anticipated RoboCop reboot. However, those rumors have been put to rest. Apparently, Hugh Laurie's talks with the studio have fallen through, and he is now saying he is officially out.
That's a shame.
It is a shame, actually. And that'll do it for the news flash. Hey, listen, folks, for those of you who are watching us live, I want to let you know, and by the way, you can watch us live if you're watching this on YouTube right now or on iTunes. You can watch us live every Monday and Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at www.ustream.tv/channel/AMC Theaters. But if you are watching us live right now, jump into the chat board. Filling in for Ryan this week, back at our chat desk, is the lovely Candon Bliss Jackson. Candon, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. The chat roll's already kind of going, so they're getting to know me already.
So you can
They're
throw
like,
in,
who's this person?
throw in your question. Now, Ryan is actually off shooting a film right now, and he's going to be gone for a few weeks.
Very
and
well.
Candon, who's one of the hosts over at AfterBuzz TV, was generous enough to sit in and cover for us. So chat with her. She's going to be on the chat board. You can talk with her. Also, throw in any questions that you have, because at the end of the show, we dedicated the last segment to just taking your questions from the chat board. So start throwing your questions in there. She'll keep track of them, and she'll pick some and bring them up. Maybe you can bribe her to make sure she asks your question.
You said something about Star Wars, and somebody said Star Wars is dead to me. So
Oh, no.
I don't know, maybe we should go avoid that topic.
Yeah, that, well, I won't go into that yet. We'll get to that a little bit later, I'm sure. But listen, folks, we want to talk about this. This week, there's been big casting news about The Hunger Games Catching Fire.
Yeah.
This is a really highly anticipated sequel. Obviously, there's a trilogy of books, and they're getting close to filling out everything. Roth, catch us up. What's going on in the world of The Hunger Games casting?
Well, the one that everybody was waiting for is, of course, who was going to be Finnick Odair.
That's really been the biggest name that had to be
Yeah,
cast.
that was it. I mean, look, there's a few that I think are huge that happened, and they're a combination of the character and the actor who's playing that. Philip Seymour Hoffman, big find for this film, big catch. As gamekeeper Plutarch Heavensby, we remember, of course, what happened to the gamekeeper last time, which was Wes Bentley. But again, the one that we were really waiting for is Finnick, and that's Sam Claflin. Now, if you guys don't know who he is, you've seen him because he was the Prince William in the very recent Snow White and the Huntsman, but he was also in Pirates of the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. On Stranger Tides, he played the missionary, the love interest of the mermaid in the film. I really like Sam Claflin. I like him a lot. I think he's a good actor. I think maybe he hasn't had the absolute best vehicles for him yet. But as a person, I've interviewed him a couple of times. I can't help that comes in a little bit. He's incredibly charming and personable and nice. But he also, I think that he's demonstrated in Huntsman, has the ability to tap into a slightly darker side. Finnick has to be completely charming, handsome, relatable. You have to sort of love this guy, but he has to have been through. Can I say hell?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you read the book,
really?
Roth?
Oh, yeah, I read the book.
Is that kind of what you imagine for Finnick, or like?
You know, it's tough because I think that when you've read the books, you have entirely of your imagination, and I was kind of open to seeing who. Look, there's people that could do it. Armie Hammer could do it. Would he do it? No. You know, he's a little bit too big for that now. But I think Sam Claflin is a strong choice. I think that I'm gonna understand that some fans will have reservations about him. But I think he's a really strong choice.
Did you just say that Armie Hammer is now too big for The Hunger Games? A film that just cast Philip Seymour Hoffman Academy Award winner, one of the biggest blockbusters. Did you say Armie Hammer is too big for a Hunger Games sequel? Did you really just say that?
You know what? You're making an excellent point. Nobody on the planet is too big for the Hunger Games sequel, including Armie Hammer. I actually... He's a little, he's maybe a little bit too old to play Finnick, but they're around
they
Sam
have some
Claflin
old
there,
ones
and Armie
in the
Hammer are
tributes.
maybe around the same place. I just don't think that that's where he's going. Interestingly enough, and this may be the reason that I thought of Armie Hammer, they were dual Prince Charmings. Claflin was the Prince William in
Snow White and the Huntsman.
In Snow White and the Huntsman, and Armie Hammer was in the Disney version of Snow White.
From reading it, I imagine Armie more than I imagine
I think
the
Armie
casting.
would be amazing.
Yeah.
I think he would be amazing. I just don't think, I honestly don't think that's where he wants to go with his career. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they didn't even think of him.
Good
See,
for him.
Here's the thing. I always pictured, because my wife got me to watch the show, when I read Catching Fire, I always pictured, what's the dude's name who plays Damien in the Vampire Diaries.
Oh, Ian Somerhalder.
Yeah, I always pictured him. Now, granted, the dude's not blonde, but for some reason, when I'm reading it, I
blonde.
just saw him in there. Now, there were other guys mentioned. Kellen Lutz got mentioned.
I could see that. Actually.
I'm surprised.
I don't think Kellen Lutz would be a good pick for
I
this.
think
I'm not sure either.
I see it more than the current casting from reading it. Whoa.
Claflin.
Hey.
Sam, what's wrong with him?
The problem I have with Sam Claflin is, number one, let me rephrase that. It's not so much that I have a problem with it, is that I'm surprised by it. And the reason I was surprised by it is, you pointed out, all we've really seen him in up to this point is Snow White and the Huntsman. Frankly, I was not impressed with him in Snow White and the Huntsman.
Okay.
I thought he was kind of dead weight. That being said, a lot of that is inherent about the character. I thought the character was kind of dead weight to start with. So, like you pointed out, maybe not the best vehicle to show us what he's got. I also thought, once again, a dead weight character in Pirates of the Caribbean 4. I was interested in this love story between the missionary and the mermaid, but that whole subplot felt completely out of place.
It also
with
sounds
the
like
movie.
the beginning of a joke.
Yes, it does. So a missionary and a mermaid.
I didn't see the fourth. They lost me at the third.
Right. I mean, well, yeah, a lot of people feel the same way. But once again, it was like, okay, this is a completely out of place character, so I wasn't really taken with him or the job he did in it. But granted, take that with a grain of salt that it was, a lot of the problems were inherent with the character, not the actor. Mm-hmm. But that leaves me going, okay, I haven't had a chance to be impressed by Sam Claflin yet.
Maybe
so
he'll surprise
really
us.
casting him as Finnick? That's a bit of a roll of the dice for Lionsgate, isn't it?
Well, we haven't seen the audition. I mean, I'm assuming the man auditioned. I am assuming Philip Seymour Hoffman did not.
He doesn't need to.
You know what I mean? But I am assuming that Sam Claflin did, in fact, audition, and we haven't seen it. So we don't know what his interpretation of the character was that spoke to them, that just made them decide to hire him in this role. And it is a bit of a role. Finnick is a really important character. It's important in this film that we don't know what side people are playing on, that we don't know where they're coming from. It's important that they have layers. You know what I mean? These are people that on the surface are, especially Finnick, is going to appear to be one thing, but he's another, and then again he's another again. You know?
Most of the tributes in it don't have as large of a role, but he's one of the main ones, without giving too many spoilers out for the second one.
Yeah, he is one of the main tributes in this, and he plays a major role in how this unfolds. In the book, I don't know how big of a role he has in the film. That's another thing.
I could just see how that one conversation went over the phone. Hello, yeah, Mr. Philip Seymour Hoffman. Yeah, this is the producer for The Hunger Games Part 2. We were wondering if you'd like to come in and audition for our role. To which Philip Seymour Hoffman replies, pardon me?
Capote does not audition. Exactly.
Would you like to rephrase that question?
Yeah, Capote,
Dear Miss Hoffman, we beg of you to please come in and take a role in this film of ours.
I think you guys are going to... I think that if Finnick ends up being the character that we think he can be from what we've read in the book, I think you're going to be surprised and find out that he has the ability to hold that darkness.
He's got to man up first, because...
Yeah, okay, well, I will agree. The people that you're mentioning are physically bigger men, right? Yeah. These are big dudes, and Sam Claflin is not.
And the way I read Finnick is he is. I mean,
Finnick is meant to be a big guy with his trident. That's true, and he will. But remember how tiny.
Hence Kellen Lutz. Kellen Lutz already knows how to use a trident, right? No.
Okay, however,
I'm kidding about the Kellen Lutz.
However, more important than the trident and the size of the character, and this is why Armie Hammer would be good. More important than that is that he has to be somebody that, like we say, and this will get revealed. This is the film, if they do it right, that we are really going to understand the brutality of this world. Yeah, there was a bunch of teenagers fighting to the death in the last film. Not good enough. Not good enough. This world is so brutal. The political allegory heightens in this film. It's an older film. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
These are bigger themes that are going to play out. And we need this character to deliver that.
And the obstacle itself of the course is much more intense here, so it'll be very interesting to see how they play it out.
You have to see the deceptive quality of the celebrity that goes along with having won the Hunger Games. Mm-hmm. You have to see what's underneath the bile that is underneath the pretty trappings. And he is the only person that can deliver that. And I think you really need a good actor to do that.
I agree, and which once again feeds into my surprise that they chose Sam Claflin, just because we haven't had a chance to see much from him. He could be an Academy Award potential winning actor. I'm saying we haven't had a chance to see it yet. But one of the things you mentioned, we're going to see the dark brutality of this world, blah, blah, blah. Can they do that? with a PG-13
No, it
film?
should
Like,
have been
how
R.
dark and brutal can they really paint this world with a
should have been R.
PG-13 rating?
That's a really good question. And even more, look, the Harry Potter franchise aged with the kids. We all know that. And it got darker. Beautifully. In the books and in the films as well. But the Hunger Games starts as tough material for a young kid to take.
Yes.
It starts that way. And then it gets even more intricate in terms of, like I said, the themes get more complex, the allegory gets more important and more complex, the character motivations get more complex, and it gets more brutal. You have to be able to watch people slit each other in the throat.
Do you think they accomplished that in the first one with being brutal enough from reading the books?
I think that when it came to the cornucopia, that he did a good enough job of illustrating to people that hadn't read the books that this was not messing around, that little baby kids that are adorable are about to get stabbed in the throat
without revealing too
much. I think it's going to be a lot harder in this film because the things that happen to these people
are way more intense.
They have to go insane. What happens to Finnick is dark. It's sexual. You know, I don't want to go into too much.
Right. Okay, well, let's move on. Let's talk about some of the other casting stuff beyond Sam Claflin. Let's talk about the Philip Seymour Hoffman thing.
Let's talk about him. So this is another really crucial role, which I think is why he took it. I think that they probably pitched to him because I was really surprised, I'll be honest with you. I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman is a tremendous actor.
Oh, yeah. One of the best alive today.
And this is not the starring role of this film. It's a huge franchise, like you say, and they're probably offering him a decent amount of money for one thing.
I'm sure.
But also, I think maybe he was attracted to, I'm assuming someone pitched him on the themes in this film.
Especially this character, which is very politically driven, and, you know, without, again, revealing too much, it's a very pivotal part of the story.
Huge
But here's the surprise for me. You're using the phrase pivotal.
Yes.
Agree. How do you pronounce? I've only ever read Plutarch. I've only read the
Plutarch
name.
Heavensby, and
Plutarch
I've
Heavensby.
only
ever read the name. I've never actually heard it said. So I mean, I don't know how it's pronounced. But here's the thing: he's a pivotal role.
Yes.
But it's a small role. At least when I read the books, he's not in it much.
No.
And I'm thinking, really, an actor like Philip Seymour Hoffman, which tells me two things. One, either they're going to take some liberties here and expand the role of Plutarch and put him in a lot more of the film.
Yes.
Which I'm not sure how the fans of the book will feel about that. The other thing it tells me is that they wanted credibility for the film. Because look, Jennifer Lawrence, a wonderful young actress.
Academy Award nominated.
Yeah.
Yes. But in talking about that grander scale, big time swag credibility,
you just have
one
Donald
of the things
Sutherland.
that credibility didn't. Yeah, you had Donald Sutherland, once again small.
Yeah.
Bringing a guy like Philip Seymour Hoffman in, it's like
raises the bar.
Boom.
Right.
Like, take us seriously.
Well, I think that this is probably what they're going to do because they did expand Donald Sutherland's role and added elements to it, little bits of elements.
He's a good President Snow.
President Snow that sort of filled him out and gave a little bit more to the character in the first film. I'm seeing that will probably happen even more. The relationship between President Snow and Katniss is crucial.
Very crucial.
And
especially in the third.
Especially in the third, but here too.
Yeah.
The relationship between these two sets up the dynamic forces at play in this world. Okay, so they have to be in play and they have to be nailed. But also, I'm imagining that Plutarch, who's Philip Seymour Hoffman. Hey, you guys, listen really quickly, just for if you don't know. The person we've been talking about, Finnick Odair, in the film, comes from District 4, which is one of the 12 districts in Panem.
A former winner of the Hunger Games.
He's a former winner of the Hunger Games who notably has a trident. He's really fierce. And the 75th Hunger Games, which they're going into now, they call it the Quarter Quell, which is they bring back
all the winners.
Well, they do another lottery, but they bring back winners from the last several. I mean, there's 80-year-olds.
All the surviving former winners of the Hunger Games get put into the draw.
Yes.
And all the participants in the 75th Hunger Games are former winners.
Yes.
Which, when you read it, was shocking.
So Finnick Odair is one of those guys.
Finnick Odair is one of those guys, and all of these former winners are going to have to come back and fight to the death again. And of course, Katniss and Peeta are the ones from their district because they are the only survivors besides Haymitch.
And they just got back.
from District 12. So that's what's going to happen in that film, and then alliances are going to form and so on. So Philip Seymour Hoffman is the gamekeeper who in the last film was Wes Bentley, who of course we know what happened to Seneca.
Yes.
Yeah. And even though his role was kind of small in the first one as well, it was very important, which I think this one, like you're saying, will elaborate a bit more because it's Philip Seymour Hoffman.
So as you were saying, yeah, they're probably going to have to expand out the kind of role that he's playing. He also may just like what he represents in the film.
Yeah.
Which is a showing up for 2 days of shooting, get paid like $50 million.
Exactly.
I love those
and
roles.
rebellion.
Well, I mean, he's taken on smaller roles in other films too that I'm sure were interesting to him.
Right. Okay, so what else do we got here in the casting?
All right, so another big one was Jenna Malone. Now, you guys probably know Jenna Malone's been acting since she was a little kid. I remember seeing her in this film where she played this character named Bone when she was like 10 years old. What was that movie called? Something of Alabama. Anyway.
Save, Donnie Darko. She's got good ones.
But you may remember her a little more recently from Sucker Punch, which was Zack Snyder's endeavor.
By endeavor, if you mean complete failure, yes.
It was his questionable...
Hot women and explosions, come on.
It was his questionable endeavor, but we like Jenna Malone. She also was in Pride and Prejudice, Hatfields and McCoys. Okay, she's playing Joanna Mason. This is another
very
big
important character.
Right.
She's another tribute. She hails from District 7. Her counterpart has not been cast yet, actually. But she is a larger kind of role in this world. It's like kind of like Finnick and then her. We don't know. Again, we need to not be able to trust this girl. She's kind of a
I was about to say
not
that.
super
moody and mean.
The interesting thing about her casting is that while look, first of all, let me preface this. I love Zack Snyder. I love 300. I liked Watchmen. Not as happy with Watchmen as I would have liked.
Yeah.
But Sucker Punch was a complete and utter disaster. I mean, watch that film on mute. It's pretty fun once the audio comes. Anyway, but unlike Sam Claflin, I think she had a chance to showcase herself quite a bit in that movie and what she brings. So I remember when you first told me about that casting, that she was going to be playing the character. I remember thinking, yeah, that works. I can see this. I think it was a terrific cast, and I love the fact that she's not a big major name yet. Right. But I think she will play that character really well. I was really happy to hear it.
Yeah, I think she's going to be great.
I really like her a lot.
This is one of the casting choices that I've been most happy with. It should be noted that too that since we're talking about the pairings, the different districts that have been cast, Lynn Cohen, who again tremendous career. But you might know her from Munich. She played Golda Meir in Munich. She's Mags, who's like 80 years old, and she volunteers to join the Hunger Games when this girl Annie, who we'll talk about later, she volunteers to come into the Hunger Games. So she's from the same district as Finnick.
And has a very close relationship with Finnick.
Yes.
Great character, by the way.
Yes.
One of my favorites in the book who doesn't have a super major role.
Yes.
Anyway, who's next?
So the next big one, now this is a rumor, but we hope that it's true. Tony Shalhoub, you guys.
So random to me, but I like it.
Love Tony Shalhoub.
I do too. It feels random for this movie, though. It feels very random.
You know, when people talk about Tony Shalhoub, here's the thing. Obviously, people will talk about his Emmy-winning show, Monk.
Yeah.
And for those of us who love him in the movies, Galaxy Quest.
Yes.
He was
the best.
so freaking good in Galaxy Quest. But I even go before that. My real first exposure and falling in love with him as an actor was in that old TV show Wings.
Yeah,
yes.
I remember him in Wings.
And he was like the Italian cab.
He was.
He was so good. I loved. Anyway,
also, people probably might remember him from Men in Black.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's right. The guy's face blown
Alien.
So who's he looking at playing? What the rumors? Anyway.
Yeah,
the rumor is that he would play BT, which is from District 3, and his counterpart. He's a genius. He's kind of a mad genius.
He won his Hunger Games by basically electrocuting everybody else in the competition.
Yeah, right. And so
he's not physically imposing or anything.
Yeah,
right.
But he's the mastermind.
But he's a mad genius. We should also say that Jenna Malone's character won her Hunger Games by pretending to be not a threat. She played that game. She just sort of went under the radar and pretended she wasn't a threat, and then all of a sudden came
boom.
out of nowhere and killed folks.
You just described like 70% of the women I've ever dated in my life. Anyway, by all means, please go on.
Killer. She was a very adept killer. Amanda Plummer is cast as Wyrus, and if I'm mispronouncing this, it's only because I've only ever read him, who is, you guys probably, Amanda Plummer is a huge career. Her father's Christopher Plummer, but you maybe know her as Honey Bunny from, oh my gosh, Tarantino, what's wrong with me? Pulp Fiction. Honey Bunny from Pulp Fiction.
I loved her as Rose, and so I married an axe murder.
Yeah,
that
okay.
was my favorite.
Yes,
that was my favorite.
Also an excellent call. So she would be teamed with Tony Shalhoub. Now she is bananas in this film. So of course,
we know she's good at crazy.
So I married an axe murder.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, she does that great.
And Pulp Fiction, she's good at that role for sure.
She is. I mean, she's really, really an excellent actress, and I'm sure she often does play other roles, but she plays crazy like nobody's business. But she's another one that plays a crucial role and is close with Katniss. I wish we could talk about what happens, but we will eventually.
Soon enough.
And now here, listen, a lot of the other roles have been filled out at this point by people that you'd recognize and have played a lot of roles on television and smaller roles in films, but they're not as huge of names as these that we've mentioned. Bruno Gunn, District 2, which we know a lot of the careers come from there. Meta Golding plays in Robia, also from District 2, question mark.
Hot.
She is, okay, here's the thing about Enrobia. This girl, and I don't know if they're going to do this in the movie because this chick that they hired is so beautiful.
Yeah,
Forgive
she's
my
stunning.
use of the word chick.
Oh, she's got to go topless, is she not?
This
that was the other one.
No.
Right.
Get this. She, after she wins her Hunger Games, she shaves down her teeth to points.
Right.
Like shark teeth. I don't know if they're going to do it because
they better.
But then why would they hire someone so gorgeous?
Because that's the
people love to beautify beautiful women in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Excellent points on both your parts. All right, so Stephanie Lee is Kashmir, who you guys, if you've read these
I don't even remember that character.
District 1. Boo. These are the careers.
The privileged.
Well, if you guys remember, the careers are the people that have been training their whole
Cato
lives.
from the first.
Like Cato from the first.
Because that's where the
He
Capitol really gets their military from.
Well, it's where the most... So basically, the financial system rolls out like this. The Capitol takes all of the resources from the other districts, but it kind of trickles down, and it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 is... screwed. They're out in District 1 where the careers come from have more money than the other ones. Also, Alan Richin is Gloss, so it's Kashmir and Gloss.
Right, yep.
Are from District 1. Gloss is the one, he is the one that has the most openly violent, one of the most openly violent scenes in the book, and I'm wondering if they're going to include it.
Right.
So here's who has not been cast.
Yeah, so let's get now into some of the things that still, I mean, almost everything's been cast, but there are a couple key ones that have still, we haven't filled yet, so talk about those for a second.
Okay, so on a smaller note, from District 8, Cecilia and Wolf, who have not been cast yet. Also, these other districts, I'm sure, will be filled out, but don't play huge roles in the book, or probably not in the film. 10, 9, 6, 5. Not huge. From District 4, the person that Mags volunteers for is Annie Cresta. Now, this is a big character. She... And I don't want to spoil anything, but she is a big character
she's
related.
Tied to one of them.
She's from District 4, so we know that she's tied to Finnick and Mags. But she is crazy as well. The Hunger Games have driven her
A lot of the
insane.
old tributes are, apparently.
Yeah. And then also from District 2, we have Joanna Malone, who's Joanna Malone. I'm confusing.
That works.
Joanna Mason and Jenna Malone. Blight, who is her counterpart. But I think the big one that fans will want to hear about next is Annie.
Definitely.
Do you think she's going to have a big role in this film?
I don't think so.
On the chat board, some people are saying that they're wondering if the character of Annie's going to be scratched because there's no rumors of casting and all that kind of stuff.
It's still early.
It is a great question, but the thing is, I think obviously she will play a bigger role, I think, in the third film.
Yes, much bigger.
So I think I think there's a possibility we may hear her the character referenced,
but not actually
for the
seen
second film,
in this
but
one.
maybe not actually see her yet until we roll into the third film. That may be why we haven't heard any casting on that yet. It's a really good point.
It could be. I would like, though, but even if you just see flashes of her, I'd like her to make an appearance.
Oh, I would like it. I'm just speculating why maybe we haven't heard a casting yet.
I know. I hope so, though, because then that might sort of validate your idea that Finnick's going to play a smaller role.
Who has chemistry with him?
Because the casting of Annie is going to be, or maybe they wanted to cast Finnick first because they have to have great chemistry.
Absolutely.
Yes,
and Finnick's
absolutely.
much more important.
Maybe they get the mermaid back.
Sure, get the mermaid. She's also lovely. I interviewed her on a balcony, and she was like, "Does it hurt you?" She's so French. She's super French. She's like, "Does it hurt you if you smoke?" I'm like, "It doesn't hurt me."
She's got a serious, because I interviewed her too. She got a seriously harsh accent. Very harsh accent.
Big accent, lovely, stunning.
Oh, yeah, gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. All right, well, listen, we got to move on from that. So, listen, folks, tell us what you think about the casting that has happened so far. Are you happy? Are you nervous? Do you want to see Annie in the second one? I mean, I think I would like to. Let us know your thoughts, or should they save her for the third? Let's move on to the next topic here. We mentioned in the news feed that the Wachowski brothers, well, first of all, Ben Affleck apparently has come out and said that he is not going to be directing Justice League. That is, of course, the DC version of the Avengers. It's the team that comprises of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, and Green Lantern. That's what they're talking about. It would be the lineup for Justice League in a Warner Brothers movie. Well, Ben Affleck has unfortunately said that he won't do it. I think that's terrible news. I thought Ben Affleck would have been I'm not going to say the perfect, but a wonderful choice to direct it. I wish he would have taken it. But now there's talk about the Matrix Brain Trust.
Among other things, but yes.
Formerly known as the Wachowski brothers.
It's so weird to say Wachowski siblings or
the
whatever.
Wachowski siblings,
It's
Don't
so
you catch
bizarre.
yourself all the time?
Wachowski
yes,
brothers.
it's so natural to say the Wachowski brothers.
Sorry, Lana.
But yeah, the Wachowski siblings are in line to talk about to direct Justice League. Now, let me start with this. Number one, yeah, I'm heartbroken that Ben Affleck has apparently dismissed the idea of doing Justice League. I think he would have been great at it.
He would have been great.
Why, Ben?
Yeah,
He would have been great.
But I mean, you might have brought it up yourself, saying taking Justice League is a risk.
Huge.
It is a risk.
Because you screw up Justice League,
You're done.
after Avengers has been so amazing.
Yeah.
That's going to take a while to recover from.
Yeah, and I think for a director who's still building his career, I mean,
As a director,
it's on an upswing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. It is a massive.
And
risk.
Argo-
He's
supposed to be
2 for
great.
2. He's 2 for 2 with Gone Baby Gone
Yeah.
and The Town.
Yeah.
Soon to be
Probably going to be 3 for 3
Yeah.
with Argo.
That
I
looks
would
really
be
good.
shocked if it's not amazing.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah.
And so I thought he knows how to do the serious tone that we've seen Nolan do.
Right.
He would have been able to translate that well into Justice League. And he's obviously got some great chops with humor as well in his writing. Would have been great. So let's talk about the Wachowski brothers possibly doing Justice League for a second. And let me start off with this one. Concern would be a word that would understate my feelings about the Wachowski brothers directing...
Wachowski siblings.
Sorry, thank you. The siblings. The Wachowskis directing a Justice League movie. And look, the first Matrix film, and we talked about this before, was... I mean, it's all-time classic. People will be talking about The Matrix and seeing The Matrix forever.
The first, anyway.
first one.
The first.
However, and I'm not somebody who disliked the second one. Obviously nowhere near as good as the first one, the second Matrix film.
What about the third, though?
Dear heavens.
Yeah.
So my last 3 exposures to the Wachowskis, from a directing point of view, has been Matrix 2,
Yes.
Matrix 3,
Right.
and Speed Racer.
Okay.
Now there are people out there who really did enjoy Speed Racer. I mean, some of our colleagues actually really quite enjoy Speed Racer. Let me put this in no uncertain terms. That movie sucked. That's a terrible movie. And so now, but then again, on the redeeming side for the Wachowskis, they also then wrote V for Vendetta.
Yes.
Love
remember
V for Vendetta.
I enjoy V for Now, granted, some people, you could say, well, I mean, that was based on a graphic novel, so they already had existing source material to work off of.
So what?
It
Fair
was
enough.
fantastic.
But let's give credit where credit is due. They did a very good job with writing that film. But from a director's chair point of view, my last 3 films with them are Matrix 2, Matrix 3, Speed Racer. Justice League, I've got to be honest with you.
Very bold.
These are still the guys who did the first Matrix, and I'm trying to keep that in mind. And maybe Cloud Atlas, which I don't like the looks of, but maybe it's an Oscar winner. It's going to be amazing. I'm just saying, as a comic fan, as somebody who's been dying to see Superman, Batman in the same movie, someone who's got to redeem the Green Lantern, someone who's got to take a very difficult character in The Flash and make him somebody who's watchable on screen, this makes me nervous.
Yeah, I think it makes probably a lot of people nervous for all of those reasons. We have to remember, well, there's two things. Warner Brothers knows things that we don't. I haven't seen any of Cloud Atlas. They have. They've seen all of it, I would imagine, you know.
And the buzz is great. The buzz is great.
The buzz is terrific on this film. So
even if the teaser wasn't.
So exactly. So that's one thing. However, addendum to that is that there are only two parts of that directorial trio. We don't really know which portions of the film that they're responsible for. I don't think anybody doubts that they can do visual, you know?
Yes.
I think that where we're concerned is telling a cohesive story that works and makes sense, is engaging with characters that are grounded. That is the DC that we have to see.
And getting the best performances out of these actors, like Josh and JJ and all the greats that we've seen.
Well, but I mean, and we talked about this previously. Listen, Marvel, and it's really funny because this came up last night with an actress, and she was talking about, hey, listen, like Marvel owns what we were saying, this other kind, this fun, epic, silly, but, you know, still grounded superhero kind of reality. DC has got to go the other direction in order to carve their own path so that we as an audience can have both. They only managed to do that with Nolan's Batman. They definitely didn't do it with Green Lantern, you know.
Right.
We haven't seen Superman. So
the new one, right.
We have not seen Superman, so we don't know what that's going to bring to the table. With Zack Snyder, however, I mean, listen, they knew with Sucker Punch they had a dud on their hands. I think that they knew that. He was already a part of Superman. So I think that this film is going to tell a lot in terms of the choices that they're making as a studio.
I have huge belief in Man of Steel. I really do.
Too.
I think with Zack Snyder
great.
on it, I think this was a great pairing, and I think it's going to be wonderful. But now translating that into Justice League, man, look, if you can't get Ben Affleck, just stick with Snyder. If Man of Steel turns out to be as good as I think it's going to be, stick with Snyder.
And Nolan, as producer credit, like, he is not someone like a lot of the Tarantinos of the world to just throw his name on something. So I want to believe that it is going to be good.
But here's my concern. Okay, let me throw this at you, however. I mean, if Nolan's the person that is sort of grandfathering, as we've talked about Superman, and if it is as great as it looks like it's going to be, which I hope it is, his last ensemble endeavor was not entirely well received, which was Watchmen. And one of the reasons that they tapped Joss Whedon, besides that he is a huge comic book geek, is that he could obviously do ensemble. He had demonstrated that before. Ensemble is, I think, a whole other enchilada in a way that maybe not everyone can do. Superman is a single character story.
Yes. Yeah, but while The Watchmen was not universally well received, like I said, I wasn't jumping up and down about Watchmen. I thought it was good, but I thought it could have been much better.
Good.
But
decent.
We have to give a lot of leeway to Zack Snyder because Watchmen, for those of you who have read Watchmen, a lot of people, while we have been dying to see a Watchmen film for years and years and years, we also always speculated, how on earth do you properly make a Watchmen movie? That had to be one of the most difficult graphic novel properties to try to adapt for the big screen and make it coherent and make it flow and make it work. It's infinitely more difficult than something like The Avengers, which has a much easier tone. I mean, not to take away from the masterful job that Joss Whedon did, but making a film like Watchmen it takes unbelievable skill to do that. And the very fact that he was able to make what I would consider a good movie out of that, I found quite impressive. So I'm willing to give him a bit of a pass on Watchmen.
I think
what you're
that
saying
Justice
about the
League is the
ensemble,
same
too.
game of Doctor. Was that the name? What was the name of the game when you had to like pull out the organs?
Emergency?
Emergency.
Or whatever it was, yeah.
You know,
take the bones out.
That's otherwise, if you went just a little to the left or to the right, it would buzz. That's the game they're playing with this tone of Justice League too.
But it's a tone. But Watchmen wasn't just about tone. It was such a mind-twisting, very different kind of narrative with very different kind of characters from a different era, with dealing with all this really weird stuff that's different justice. So like I said, I'm willing to give him a little bit, a lot of rape actually. I'm willing to give him a bit of a pass on that and actually give him big credit for the fact that he made something watchable out of Watchmen. No pun
I see what you did there.
I don't hate Watchmen. I think I'm probably on the same page as you. I see the problems in it, but I don't hate it. And I don't hate him. He's actually really lovely. And he definitely did,
lovely.
you know,
like
ensemble with 300.
I love 300 so much.
I love 300 too.
So it's possible Snyder could be
because when the goat head dude smoking a bong shows up, you know it's a party. And that, you know, that's in 300. I mean, 300, I just love that film.
But they haven't traditionally had the same director. Look, and maybe they'll break tradition. I don't know. But they haven't traditionally had the same directors on the single character films as the groupings, the ensemble films. I don't know if we can call it tradition because this is kind of a new era anyway. But so maybe they'll do that. But besides Snyder, who would you like to see then?
There's a lot riding on Man of Steel.
It is a lot riding on Man of Steel. Well, listen, folks. Let us know your thoughts. What do you think about the possibility of the Wachowski siblings taking over Justice League? What are your hopes for Man of Steel? All that kind of stuff. Let us know in the comment section. We'd love to hear it. We're going to take a little bit of a break right now. I just wanted to remind you, though, that opening this week in AMC theaters is the new film For a Good Time Call. Now, recently, our very own Roth Cornett had a chance to go down and talk with the stars of the film. And we want to share with you right now Roth's conversation with, do you pronounce her first name Ari?
Ari.
Ari Grainer, to talk about their new film For a Good Time Call. Let's check it out.
So Lauren and Katie, who are the originators of the story, essentially sent you a love letter to bring you on board. What did it say?
It basically, we were saying we have to reread the letter because we can't remember exactly what it was, but the tone of it was, so flattering just about them being fans, and then it was talking about how they felt like I did this very unique thing of being able to be both funny and sexy at the same time and have like a strength and a vulnerability and a certain sense of freedom in my work and an unself-consciousness that people don't usually have but still is sexy. All that stuff that it just felt so amazing that they saw all of that in me, and I just so appreciate it. And they'd written such a genius script, and to ask me to be a part of it, that they'd written it with me in mind, and then to also come on as an executive producer was like, it was such a dream come true.
As an executive producer, what did you kind of want to bring forward with the story and the characters that you didn't feel like was being represented on film or that we weren't seeing?
Well, I think we really wanted to tell a story about female friendship that felt real, that felt grounded, and, their script was so smart and had gone through so many different journeys, because originally when it was potentially going to be made in more of a studio world, and it was a much broader story. There were more characters. There were, there was a man that worked at a sex shop who drove a penis car, and so
now I'm kind of sad that's not
I know, but it's better. It's better that it's not there, and we just really wanted to have relatable women, telling a story about the intimacies of friendship and about what it is to sort of learn about yourself in the face of your friend, and to own your sexuality as a means to get to know yourself, and and to have something that's felt fresh, that had a point of view, that was fun to watch, that felt real, that was funny, and that was something that we would want to watch. And that's what we really set out to do. And also kind of like an homage to a lot of the 80s movies that we grew up watching and loving, like, with Shelley Long and Bette Midler and Goldie Hawn and Diane Keaton, and sort of a spirit of those women that got lost a little bit, I think.
It did get lost. I think the clever hook, too, is that it's basically a rom-com.
Totally.
Like, about women falling in love with each other. And then, so you have these kind of homages to, like, Dirty Dancing, which, by the way, was amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was a dream Dan said.
That was kind of hilarious to me. But what do you think? There's so few good rom-coms, too. So what do you think the tropes of a really great rom-com are, and why do they translate so perfectly to this story?
Well, I think that, Lauren and Katie were so smart in subverting that story of taking a really clear dynamic and a clear construct of a story of there's a meet cute, you fall in love, you have a fight, you get back together, and that's a simple, great way to storytell. But I just think there's lots of different kinds of relationships in life besides just a romantic one. And you could essentially, I would love to see this kind of setup with a mother and daughter, I think that dynamic is so strong, and it doesn't, there's so much more going on in women's lives than just the guy they have a crush on. And don't get me wrong, I love rom-coms. You know, I talk about boys all the time, but it's just nice to see something else, I think.
Thank you so much. We're looking forward to seeing it on AMC.
Thank you.
Don't forget, folks, you can get your tickets for a Good Time Call at right now 24/7 at www.amctheaters.com. Well, it's time for us to go to the mailbag. Listen, for those of you who aren't watching live, you can still send in your questions to us via email. You can email us anytime at fycpodcastshow@gmail.com. And then each week we pick out a bunch of your emails to us and we address those. So it is mailbag time. I'm going to throw it over to Candon. Candon, what do we have in the mailbag?
All right, let's see. Our first mail is from Kyle O. He says, my old math teacher, Mr. McClure, likes Edward Norton, Anthony Hopkins, Clint Eastwood, and Jack Nicholson, and prefers Jack. Don't we all? Which of those do you guys prefer and why?
Okay, it was Jack Nicholson, Edward Norton. Who are the other two?
Edward Norton, Anthony Hopkins, Clint Eastwood, and Jack Nicholson.
It's so hard to compare all these great men.
Why would you? You start, John.
No. I mean, these are all great,
Yeah.
all great. But no question to me, it's Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
He will go down as one of the all-time greatest actors.
He's
to
a
ever live.
thespian too. He's
Yeah,
very,
he is
different.
a serious, real
Yeah.
thespian who can do anything. I mean, he can do Shadowlands, and he can be Odin Allfather in Thor,
Yeah.
and he can do them both breathlessly, without a hiccup.
Agreed.
He's just one of the best to have ever
And
lived.
Edward
And I
Norton's old work, like American History X, and some of the great were great, but other than Moonrise Kingdom, to date, he hasn't had
Let's see
many
where-
good
I
ones.
absolutely don't agree. I think
What else?
that time will tell. I mean, not that I don't agree
Let's
about
see where
Anthony
Edward Norton is in
Hopkins, by the
15
way.
years, in 20 years.
Yeah.
Just before anybody yells at me, I'm not disagreeing about what John said about Anthony Hopkins. I absolutely agree, and I adore Anthony Hopkins.
too.
By the way. But he's obviously done a lot of other work, but you can't help but love Hannibal Lecter.
Gotta love Hannibal.
However, Edward Norton is, I think that time will tell, one of the greatest actors of our
He's
time.
fantastic. He
He's
just
great.
has made some weird choices.
He's look, I even think that in The Bourne Legacy, his performance is so tremendous in that film. It's so understated. And that's one of the things that I really love about you're talking about two very different acting styles too.
Yes.
All of
Edward
them.
Norton is incredibly an understated actor, but equally talented. Clint Eastwood,
I like
we
his
love-
directorial
well,
contributions.
maybe not
to
some of the
date.
more recent stuff. But I will say Unforgiven, for that
Classic.
alone, how can we not love Clint Eastwood?
Oh, you have to love
know?
Clint Eastwood.
And-
Absolutely.
And Jack Nicholson,
It's Jack.
he's a Hollywood icon, I think, for a reason. I mean, he One Flew Over the Cuckoo's
A
Nest.
Few Good Men, one of my faves.
As Good as It Gets is one of my all-time
That's a great one,
favorites.
too.
Jack Nicholson.
I-
films,
Did you not
actually.
like A Few Good Men?
I didn't say that, but I wouldn't say that.
your eyes went down.
Well, I liked A Few Good Men, but when I think of Jack Nicholson, I really think of
You
The
can't
Shine-
handle the truth. Come on.
I can. This is my truth. My truth is that I think of The Shining. I think
Yes, The
of,
Shining. It's
you know, I do. I think of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I
Yes.
think of his 70s work, and I do. Yeah, I mean,
As Good as It Gets was
as
great.
good as it
Helen
gets,
Hunt.
it was great
was great in that
too.
too.
The Shining is actually a really overrated film. But anyway,
I hope.
I'm going to
anyway,
get
just
email
letting
like
that
that from
simmer
crazy.
right
Pause
there.
on that. I want everyone to give John as much crap as
I
I have
know.
received recently for saying that about The Shining, which is absolutely one of the best horror films ever made. Done.
Along with the
Period.
original Halloween, also a really overrated
Oh,
film.
why are you stabbing me in the eyeball?
Okay, anyway,
Are you
what else?
stabbing
What else
me?
we got in the mailbag?
Let's see. Our next email is from Pierce. And Pierce says, do you think it's possible that Marvel could purchase the Spider-Man, X-Men, etc. rights from Fox and Sony in the near future and blend those into the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
I mean, that's the dream, right? But
He says, I'd be intrigued to see if anyone new will join the Avengers, much more so than Ant-Man or Wasp.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I'll be honest with you. I said this in the last episode too. I am a huge Edgar Wright fan as a director. I think he's amazing. And hearing that he could be directing something in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is awesome. Hearing that it could be Ant-Man deadens that awesomeness just a little bit. I really don't care about Ant-Man.
I don't at
Now,
all.
if Edgar Wright, look, in Marvel I Trust, so far, they're, what are they, 4 for 4? No, 5 for 5. Iron Man 2 wasn't so great.
Right.
But aside from that, if they say, Ant-Man, hey, this project we got and the script we got, it's good, and Edgar Wright says, yeah, this is good, then I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. But I would much rather see, obviously, Spider-Man, X-Men, stuff like that. But as we talked about before, with Spider-Man being owned by Sony right now, X-Men and everything X-Men related belonging to Fox, the dollar values are just too high.
Yeah.
You're not Marvel. I mean, frankly, honestly, here, let's call it what it is. Marvel does not have the money to buy those characters from studios. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Look, Marvel is a part of Disney. Let's not forget. Disney is incredibly judicious with how it spends its money as a studio, which is one of the reasons.
Especially after John Carter.
Well,
They've tightened the wallet strings a little bit after since that.
It was much better than the marketing led it to believe, though.
Right.
I thought John
It was a great movie. John Carter was a great movie.
I really
but
liked
nobody
it. I
saw
thought I
It
was
was
going to
good.
hate the movie, and then I saw it in an airplane, and I was like,
was good.
I've actually watched it twice, which is
Yeah.
not
I've
normal
watched it
for me.
like
But the
4
marketing,
times. I
they
love that
crushed
movie,
it.
but
It's
nobody saw it.
Yeah.
the marketing absolutely killed John Carter.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
long discussion we've all had with
Yeah.
Disney reps and with friends.
Yeah,
It was
but the
really
film was
too
good.
bad. But I'm talking top to bottom as a studio in every capacity. Believe me, I used to do DVD features for these people. They would charge me back for a messenger. Okay, they are incredibly judicious with how they spend their money top to bottom, which is why they have thrived. Even
Yeah.
throughout
Yes,
when
they've
other
made great,
studios
great
were
calls.
failing and struggling, they are very smart about how they spend their money. They're not going to do it because there's probably not enough reason for them to take that kind of a risk to spend that amount of money, even if they could.
And Mark Webb, I think, did a good job with the latest Spider-Man. I mean, we talked about this before.
Yeah, I enjoyed his work on Spider-Man, actually.
Although it felt like a complete reboot, and I would like to see something more brought to the table, I thought he did a really good job with the film.
Right. And what
I agree.
Marvel is doing right now with the characters they have is successful enough. Look, we'd all like to see them sort of come together and merge a little bit, but it's successful enough without that happening.
Agreed. All right, what else we got?
So our next mail is actually kind of a combined question. So we have 2 questions, one from Sharon R. and one from Zach. And Sharon says, I love the show, guys. Keep it up. Thank you very
Sharon.
much. With Robin basically getting a leadway into his own film on Dark Knight Rises, should they move forward in making a spin-off? Because I think a Teen Titans type of movie will work since Bale and Noel are finished with their version of Batman. Could a Batman Beyond reboot work with a more modern tech?
And what was Zach's?
And then Zach says, could we maybe see another Dark Knight movie in the future with Bruce Wayne still alive and Robin coming into the movie? I was wondering if maybe Nolan put it off till like when he wants to make another one.
He's done.
It would be nice to see all the characters back to fight like Harley Quinn or Hugo Strange in a new movie.
Okay, so I guess the first thing we should say is a belated spoiler alert. But as I discussed with somebody else, look, Batman's been out for over 6 weeks now. We're going to talk about Batman. So if you haven't seen it, you're not really that big of a Batman fan. Okay, so here's the thing. 2 very, very important points that I've got to bring up, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Number 1, no, Nolan is done. Nolan's not just putting it off. Oh, he set up the end of Dark Knight Rises to do another one. He's going to come. No, please, look, explanation point on this. Christopher Nolan and that universe are done. Warner Brothers is not going to pick up on the Christopher Nolan films and continue the Christopher Nolan films. They're done with it. Christopher Nolan's done with it. It's finished.
He wrote his goodbye letter already to the trilogy saying, I loved this universe, I love being a part of it, but he's done.
Yeah, that's why we're not going to see a Catwoman spin-off. I mean, if we do, it's going to be a different Catwoman, not the Christopher Nolan universe Catwoman.
Even though we would love to see Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, absolutely. On top of that, big debates I've had online with 1,000 people. That's not Robin at the end of the film. It is not Robin. They just, first of all, Robin's name is Dick Grayson.
Right.
It's not whatever this guy. Christopher Nolan simply put that in as a cute little wink and tip of the hat to fans of the comic book to have Robin in there. Joseph Gordon-Levitt was not the comic book idea of who Robin is. That's not who he was.
Wait, I have a question, John.
Yes.
Was Joseph Gordon-Levitt Robin?
I'm not quite sure what you're saying. Definitively, bottom line, Joseph Gordon-Levitt was not Robin. That was the character's real name. And of course, in the comic book, Robin is not Robin's real name.
Right.
It was just Christopher Nolan winking his eye to the fans.
That would defeat the purpose of a secret identity.
Yes.
But he knew who Batman was, don't forget, by just a little glance.
But let's talk theoretically here. You know, would it have been neat to see like a Teen Titans? I think a Teen Titans is a very interesting idea. 2 problems, though. You're not going to get enough people to see it. But the second problem is Nightwing would have to be much younger than, I mean, remember, Teen Titans, you're talking about Nightwing having just retired as Robin and having just become Nightwing. So you'd have to see a younger version of that. I don't really see something like that happening. Do you guys?
No. Sadly, I would really like to see it, though, especially with Joseph Gordon-Levitt continuing, because I think he's fantastic. But, yeah, I don't think it's going to happen.
I think this. I'm about to say something controversial.
Ooh, we like controversy.
Nolan's done with Batman. However, he is, as we have seen, not averse to grandfathering things. So is it possible that he's going to take on a role in the DC universe like Whedon is now taking on for the next 3 years in Marvel, where he's going to not only be the person to direct the Avengers 2, but he's probably going to have his hand in a lot of different pies in that universe.
I would love
in terms of doing passes on different scripts, working on the television series for Marvel. Could Nolan come in and play that kind of a role for DC? If Warner Brothers is smart,
They'll
If
nab
Warner
him.
Brothers is smart,
way.
but I don't think Christopher Nolan has any interest whatsoever
you
in
think
doing
he wants
that.
to go off now and do his own work and do his Inceptions
Some
and
other
so forth
epic-
and
I
so
think
on,
he has been dying to finish Batman.
and be done
And be
forever
done.
and ever and ever.
I think so. I
then
could be
why
wrong.
did
I
he-
hope I'm wrong.
And think
but
about
I
all the
think he's-
bad luck that has followed this trilogy.
So
I mean,
then why is he
sadly.
willing to put his name on Man of Steel?
Well, so that's a really good question, but it raises the issue about, okay, Christopher Nolan is an executive producer on Man of Steel.
Right.
He is grandfathering in
How
all
much
this
did he
kind of
really
stuff.
have to do with
What
it?
does that really mean?
I don't
Because
know.
you can have
don't really know.
in the entertainment in the film world, you can have somebody called a producer on a film who works 20 hours a day for 4 years to bring that movie to life. You can also have somebody called a producer on
Just
a film
slabs their name.
who just writes their name on something once and never talks to the director, never shows up.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the film. It's really difficult to know how heavily involved. Now, the studio is going to say Christopher Nolan is heavily involved because that's what
sure.
they want the fans to
Yeah.
hear. But what the truth of it is, I don't know. Maybe he's super involved. Maybe he's not. I don't know.
Nobody really knows. But and you're right that producer is the most loosey-goosey title in the world.
Yeah.
You know, it can mean anything practically. However, he may become the kind of person that starts throwing his name on every different property
Not
as
yet,
a producer.
though.
But we don't know that he is that person yet. He's an incredibly controlled artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would doubt that he put his name on something that he
And he's
didn't
got
like.
too many things of his that he wants to do.
And Zack
Yeah.
Snyder already has a name, so it's not like he's trying to lift a director off the ground that doesn't have any sort of credibility.
Right.
Yeah.
For
We'll
lack-
see
you know.
where they go with it. It's
So-
very interesting.
I'm
Yeah.
with you guys. He's done. But in the back of my mind, I wonder if they could reel him into grandfather spinoffs.
I hope so.
I doubt they can, but I wish they could.
Yeah.
I would love it. I would love it. Anyway, what else we got?
Next question from Jared. John, been reading you and watching your podcast since 2006. Thanks
Oh,
for the years
yeah.
of entertainment. Question, you can't exactly get a college degree in film blogging and podcasting, so I was wondering what advice you'd give to someone who wants to make a
Great
career
question.
out of what you do. Love the new AMC FYC.
Well, this is a good time to announce that I'm going to start teaching at USC. No. The new podcasting and blogging thing. Here's
Be
the...
surprised.
I think that's actually brilliant.
Yeah, somebody should do that. Here's the best piece of advice I could ever give to somebody who wants to get into the type of stuff that we do. It costs almost nothing to do your own podcast and do your own blog. The best thing you can do, I remember when I was still running my old site, which was called the Movie Blog, I would have people write to me all the time asking if I would hire them to be film critics and stuff like, hey, I love watching movies. Can you hire me as a film critic? First of all, nobody's looking to hire film critics. Period. The people are looking for movie news people and pundits and things like that. Film critics, not so much. So don't think just because you watch movies you can be a film critic. But what I would suggest is what I was always looking for when people would write to me is show me what you've done already. And you don't have to have a job with somebody else to do your own movie podcast, to do your own movie blog. You can spend no money, get all that set up. I would say do it for like 6 months as a hobby. Build up your stuff, show that you're good at what you do, and then when you contact sites like, well, whether it's me at AMC or whether it's sites like IGN or Joe Blow or Screen Rant or things like that, then you're not just saying, hey, I watch movies, can you hire me as a film critic? No. You write them and say, hey, look, I love your site. Here's some examples of what I do. Here's some of my podcasts. Here's my writing stuff. Then after like 6 months, you've got something to show people. It'll reaffirm to you if it's what you like to do or not. It'll help you develop your skill and sharpen your craft. And then you'll have something to show potential people who might want to get involved with you that way. So I would say that. And listen, I also wrote this article in 2008. I re-released it in 2010. called 20 Tips for Starting Your Own Movie Blog. I'll put a link to it in the show notes in the YouTube video, so look for it there. Just some pointers about how to actually get your own movie blog rolling. So that's the best thing. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, listen, you can't get a degree in movie blogging, but you can get a film degree if you're in college.
Or a journalism degree.
Or a journalism degree, or both. I think that one of the people that John and I both love and respect the most in this field has both. Chris Tapley, who runs a blog called In Contention on
He's a complete douchebag, but I love the guy. I love him to death. He's one of my best friends.
I will not comment on the former, but I will say that I think he is among many people I think that are excellent at what they do, excellent at what he does, and he has both degrees. I have a film degree. I know a lot of people that have film degrees, or I have a film production degree. Some people have film theory degrees. Some people have journalism degrees. The people that I meet in this field, some people don't. They don't have either. They come from all different areas. Everybody has a huge passion for film. Everybody in one way or another does study and learn about film. You can't do this and not know about the basic elements of filmmaking in terms of cinematography, editing, acting, production design, all of that, because you're looking at it in order to talk about it when you're watching the films. You can't do that, I don't think. But people come from all different kinds of backgrounds. But I will say this, a lot of people, a friend of mine and I were talking about this the other day, talk to us too and like, can you hook me up? Can you hook me up? Listen, it is rough out there, kids. I don't want to like put any false illusions here. It's a rough economy in the United States in general, and this is an incredibly rough and competitive field. I mean, it's tough to get these jobs. Entertainment as a whole is competitive, it's challenging, it's fabulous, we love it, but it's a lot of work. Get used to not sleeping, get used to working all the time and making certain sacrifices to do what you want to do. If you want to do that, awesome, but it's not you make a phone call, walk in the door, you're making $150,000 a year for most people, and then everything's gravy. It's a lot of baby steps.
And establish your credibility. That's number one.
One of the things that I bring up in that 20 Tips Starting Your Movie Blog I mentioned is don't get involved in this, what we do, to make a career out of it. Just don't. If you love it and you're passionate about it, do it as a hobby and just assume it'll never be more than a hobby and it's something you're going to love and celebrate and be a part of. If you can roll that into something else later on, gravy. But just never go into it with the assumption that you're going to start a podcast or start a blog and you're going to make a career out of it, because it just doesn't work that way. Anyway, that's all the time we got for the mailbag, but we've been telling you guys, look, you still got a few minutes here. We're going to close off this show by taking the questions that our live viewers have been putting in on the chat board. And I know Candon's been keeping her eye on the chat board. So Candon, what have we got on the chat board?
Let's see. What have we got here? So there's a couple cool questions. A lot of people really wanted to continue talking about Hunger Games. But before we get back to Hunger Games, this is an interesting comment. It wasn't really a question, more of a comment. Superman, it's from T115, but everybody in the chat really agreed with all these statements. Superman is the most boring superhero. Batman is the most interesting, although there is risk of overexposure. With a new Batman, there's risk of overexposure and Batman fatigue. What do you guys think?
Bold statements.
Bold. Here's the thing. I am one of the few people, although I completely acknowledge all of its shortcomings and why people did not like it, I liked Superman Returns. I liked the Brandon Routh Superman Returns. I've gone on record and said Brandon Routh is better Superman than Christopher Reeve. There, said it. Now, but the thing is,
I hope the chat room is blowing up.
It failed. Here's where it failed. It failed as a comic book movie.
Yes.
Because the Superman, the only fight Superman has is lifting heavy crap. He's lifting a plane. He's lifting a kryptonite mountain. He's lifting a building. All of his fights were lifting heavy things. That's what the fight was, him lifting stuff. And so as a comic book movie, it failed. But to me, Superman is one of the most fascinating characters. And this is what J.J. Abrams, not J.J. Abrams, I'm sorry, X-Men director, Bryan Singer.
Oh.
This is what Bryan Singer was trying to bring to Superman, is that the story of a frail god. Superman is a god. And yet he has but he also possesses this incredible weakness, and we're not talking about kryptonite. He is a man who is alone. He's a man who despite having the powers of the universe at his disposal, he doesn't know how to just get his life in order.
Which is very similar to
there's
Batman.
An incredible scene in Superman Returns where he's just floating in space, alone and isolated, listening to the cries for help of humanity below him, not knowing if humanity even wants him or not. There's something inherently fascinating about that. But because he is so powerful, because he is the Boy Scout, it limits the more sensational narrative possibilities with him that you can actually tell. Look, who can fight Superman? So that's part of the problem.
I think that's one of the bigger problems, or not problems. I think that's one of the bigger challenges with the character is who can fight Superman. And I think because who can fight Superman? So you've got to get a villain and there's certainly great villains in the canon for sure. But there's two things that I think are tough. You've got to, I think, in our current world of cinema, you have to make him somehow, even though he's not human. Because, and I think what they've done in the teaser trailers that was so brilliant is they showed the struggle between the side of him that is godlike on our world. He's not a god, but he's godlike on our world, and the side of him that was raised human, and how he's going to have to struggle to reconcile, and how his struggle is to reconcile those two things to become the being that he's meant to be and that he wants to be. And I think that's what this film is going to really do. The other thing is, I think you do need to make him they rebooted, the sort of DC rebooted, as we know. And one of the reasons is because I think Superman felt to people, whether it was or not, like a very old-fashioned apple pie kind of a character, where Batman's like, I am driven by vengeance, and
justice.
I live in darkness, and I seek justice. It just feels like a character that, for whatever reason, at this particular moment in time, we're willing to get behind, believe in, relate to. We're willing to deal with our own frailties and our own dark sides as human beings. We want to do that. But I think the time now, we're ready to get into something that is a little bit more, he's just a good intentioned kind of, he has good intentions.
And they're both super lonely, but Bruce Wayne versus Clark Kent, Bruce Wayne's just much cooler. So their standard everyday fitting in personas, I don't know. Bruce Wayne's just a lot more interesting.
And the thing is that
in terms of being aspirational,
one of the really interesting things between Batman and Superman is Clark Kent is really who Superman is.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Superman is the persona. Batman is who he really is, and Bruce Wayne is the persona.
Exactly.
It's a really interesting dichotomy. Anyway, what else we got?
All right, let's see. Let's go back to Hunger Games. A lot of people had questions about Hunger Games. So, question, is there any other big Oscar-winning nominated actor you'd like to see in the Hunger Games world, i.e., continuing the question, Helen Mirren as President Coin in Mockingjay?
Awesome.
That is an awesome pick.
I love that
Who
idea.
asked that?
Anna_BR.
Anna, you're awesome.
Helen
A lot of
Mirren
people
would be
agreed with her, too.
Great.
Dude.
As President Coin.
President Coin.
That's
If
great.
they are not picking up the phone
Yeah.
to
That's
Helen
brilliant.
Mirren right this second, they're out of their minds.
I can just imagine the third one with that last that's good.
What is the
Good job, Annie.
who's the name of the professor in the Harry Potter films?
Maggie Smith.
Maggie Smith. She would also be an interesting Coin, but Helen Mirren is President Coin.
Yeah,
know.
that's good.
Because
and
here's the
you know
thing
she can be a
about
badass
Coin.
too.
Here's the thing about Coin. You've got to be inspired by her, be willing to believe you would follow her, who would not follow Helen Mirren. You gotta hate her.
Yes, and not
You gotta
trust
hate
her
her
at the same time,
and not
but
trust
want
her.
to.
You gotta walk that line with her. I think
That's
is an
brilliant,
amazing
yeah.
pick. I love Maggie Smith. I would not want to hate her. I love Helen Mirren too, but
She's already had her
fierce.
huge
Helen Mirren's
franchise.
fierce.
Leave her in Harry Potter.
Helen Mirren can be fierce.
Oh yeah.
Super
Oh yeah.
fierce. Super
Yeah.
fierce.
I loved her in Red.
All right, what else do we got?
All right, so Ajax Lou says, are there any concerns over Kat's character arc in the next 2 books, i.e. she becomes a pawn and a figurehead for the rebellion?
Here's my concern about the next 2 books. Full disclosure, I did not read the first Hunger Games book. I watched the movie. And then while on a Vegas trip, I decided to download and read the following 2 books.
But the first was the best.
The first is the best. Hence, the concern I have is not so much with Katniss. I didn't find the second 2 books particularly strong.
yeah, here's
That seems
where
to be the
I
most debate.
disagree with the world. I love the first book.
Loved the first.
I think it's the strongest narrative in the sense that it's the most clear narrative.
and it sets everything up.
And it sets everything up. I love those second 2 stories. And the reason that I love those second 2 stories is because of all of the reasons that I said at the beginning of the show. I am obsessed with political allegories. I am obsessed with diving into the dark underbelly of the human psyche and greed and drives and the things that we're willing to do to one another. I am obsessed with that.
Which would describe your dating life.
Which would describe my dating life. Thank you very much. It's so
the
sad,
intro
but
of
true.
the
It's funny
second
'cause
was
it's true.
great. The
Yes.
intro, but then I felt like it kind of
I
dragged again and then ended on a bit.
disagree. I love the fact that this woman was able to make themes this complex palatable for kids. I want this to be taught in schools. I want them to discuss it. And the reason is because there is no black and white good guy or bad guy, as we've been discussing. As bad as the Capitol is, there are repercussions to anything you do to fight it, and that is true in our political world. That is absolutely true. The French Revolution was not pretty, my friends. Okay? Not cute if you were Marie Antoinette.
Preach on, baby.
Or anybody else in the aristocracy. It was bloody and brutal and vile, and a lot of people suffered, and that is the truth, and that is why I like the second 2 books.
All right. We got time for 2 more questions.
2 more questions. Okay.
I still like the second 2, to be clear, but the first one is amazing.
Right. These are kind of just unrelated questions.
Sure thing.
This one's for John. When you directed the anniversary, how did he get funding and what was it like directing?
Wow, there's still people who remember the anniversary. I loved doing the anniversary. It was my goal for a long time because I've been in this business for so many years that I wanted to get on the other side of the camera and appreciate what people do, and I just wanted to do it. I thought it'd be fun. I got the funding from just people. I found a company that liked my idea and decided to put up a bunch of money. And I put up a bunch of my own money. I mean, Kevin Smith brings it up best. You want to make your first movie, be willing to apply for every credit card there is and max them all out. Now, I didn't have to go that far because I did have other people funding it as well. And I loved directing. I did. As a matter of fact, I got offered, Dennis knows who I'm talking about, but I got offered a directing gig after I did the anniversary from an actor in a very popular movie. And I was so excited. I was so stoked. And then he sent me over the script, and it was so awful and so bad. I thought, I can't. I can't do it. There's no way that a good director could do anything like this.
Was it still made?
Let alone, no, wasn't made. So, but I loved it. I would probably do it. I'm actually working on something right now, but I can't talk about too much. But yeah, I did. I loved it. I had a great time with it.
Cool. All right.
Looks like you should have a class, because there are a lot of people that want to know what's up, John.
Totally Cool, who's been totally cool in the chat boards this whole time.
Yay,
She's going to be an extra, or he. Sorry, it looks like a he, maybe. is going to be an extra in Hunger Games.
All right.
So we were talking about that, and that's pretty cool. Will there ever be a horror film that will redefine the horror genre like the Scream franchise did?
Dread?
Will there
I'm
ever
going to
be?
say no, simply because Scream did not redefine the horror genre.
It was spoopy
Yeah,
and
yeah.
fun.
Scream was an observation of the horror genre
And horror fans.
and a commentary on the genre and a little bit of a spoof.
Yeah.
It's certainly in no way redefined the horror genre.
Yeah, I was a
But it was fun.
lifelong. I am a lifelong horror
Me
fan,
too.
and when I saw Scream, I was crying and laughing because my girlfriend and I, who was also a lifelong horror fan, we watched it together since we were little girls, were having the exact same conversation that they then had in the video store. You guys, if you've seen Scream, you know what I'm talking about which one is the killer and why. We were literally turning to each other, going, "Well, she's gonna live because she's the virgin."
The whole formula?
We were
Nice.
talking about the formula when they went into it, and it was hilarity. But no, it didn't. I don't think it redefined the horror genre. But will there be one that does? Be awesome. I mean, the horror genre is. I don't know if it can be
Redefined, yeah.
because there's so many different arms to horror.
Yeah.
You know, there's now torture porn, and there's sci-fi
Which is scary as hell in
horror,
its own
and
right.
there's ghost stories.
There's
and
psychological horror.
Yeah.
There's monster horror.
Slasher movies.
Slasher
Big
movies.
Worm in the Sand.
Dread.
Yes.
Possession movies are huge right
Yeah.
now. There's
Yeah.
like 3 now.
It just takes a lot to scare me, and I love to be scared. I love
It takes
it.
a lot to scare me too, and I was talking about this the other
They
day.
fall
There's
apart.
a lot of possession movies out right now. The one that I think was the scariest in the last several years was The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
That was terrifying.
If you guys have not seen that, it's Laura Linney is in it. She's the star. It's a really good movie. Great character development, and I tell you, it is terrifying. Plus, they use tapes from the real trial.
Boom, boom, boom.
There's another kind of subgenre of horror that's popped up in the last decade or so, which is horror comedy.
Yes.
So you're talking about like some amazing films like Shaun of the Dead, which
I
is
love
probably
Shaun
the
of the
best of all
Dead.
that. You've got
Well, there was also Evil Dead. Sam
Evil
Raimi.
Dead.
Yes.
You've got, I've talked about, I'll put this in the show notes. Most people have never even heard of this film or watched it, but you absolutely must. Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. You've got to watch this movie, one of the funniest. I think it's better than Scream.
I haven't seen it.
Because it is, once again, an observation and a critique and a commentary and a spoofing of horror film, but it's better than Scream. There's also one I just watched with Alan Tudyk,
Really?
Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Oh, I heard that was good.
It was delightful. I'm going to use the word delightful. It's absolutely delightful. But my favorite horror film of the past 10 years is, we've talked about it on the show before, is Descent.
Yeah.
The set was good.
Yeah, that freaked
Creepy.
the heebie-jeebies out of
Oh,
me.
yeah.
That was
Very,
so
very,
good.
very creepy.
And that's usually the part where they'll lose me, like when you see, the character, the evil character, and like it's cheesy and it doesn't hold up. But those are terrifying.
Yeah.
You lock me in a cave with those, I'm gone.
And we've actually, Roth and I have had a discussion about, hey, maybe we should start another podcast on AMC just talking about horror movies.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Maybe we should. I don't know.
Well,
I'll never get approval for this, but maybe we should.
We're definitely going
We
to
can
the
ask the
season
chat roll
for
what
it.
they think.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're definitely going to see. Well, listen, folks, that will do it for us for this installment of AMC for your consideration. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to remind you once again that you can watch this show live Mondays and Thursdays, and you can find us at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern, at www.ustream.tv/channel/AMC-theaters. I'll put up the link below that you'll have a chance to see it. And if you're watching this live, folks, download the show and share it. You can find it on our YouTube channel. You can find it on iTunes. Just search for Your Consideration. You can find us, watch us on your TV. You can buy an app, watch us on Apple TV, watch us on Boxy, watch us on your Roku. Lots of ways to watch this show. Listen, folks, I want to remind you that you can get your movie tickets, theater and showtime information 24/7 by visiting us at amctheaters.com. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. And folks, by all means, subscribe to our YouTube channel. So that'll do it for us. I want to thank, as always, the guy who runs the show over here, Dennis Zen, who you cannot see on camera. The lovely and talented Candon Jackson, who's sitting back at the chat
Thank
board.
you very much. Thank you, chat roll, for being so kind and fun.
She will be back. I want to thank our guest, Amirose Eisenbach. Amirose, thank you so much. And where can people watch your new show? What is it again?
It's Fan Academy, co-host with the wonderful Chris Carl, who's our entertainment editor-in-chief.
At IGN.
And, at IGN.
And Roth Cornett, and we can see you writing stuff on AMC Theaters Movie News.
Yeah, so I'll just put up a camera and you can watch me type and see how the go-go world of online blogging.
The new reality television. Folks, that'll do it for me as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to join us on Thursday. My name's John Campea. I'm the senior editor over here at AMC Movie News. And until next time, bye-bye.